it's all about understanding what the motivation, the levers are to persuade that individual to act in a way or behave in a way or buy in a way which is in line with your objectives. I'm not saying doing it in a sort of coercive manner, but you basically want to do it in a human way, and you want to take people on a journey.
Thanks for tuning in to the Email Marketing Podcast mini-series, where we're delivering impactful insights in just about 10 minutes. I'm excited today to be joined by Matthew Mahabadi, Managing Partner at DataStudio.Tech, and also founder of, or co-founder of another organization, right?
Yeah, that's right, Janice. So I'm a co-founder of a business called iota-ML. We are very grateful to be working with companies like Volvo to effectively help them with personalization against very large data sets. Using machine learning, and we've been doing that successfully now for a few years, and it's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Also, you are coming at us from just north of London, you said?
That is right, yes. So I'm based in a little village called Baston, which is north of Peterborough, which, if your viewers have never heard of that, it's about 100 miles north of London. So basically, it nice. Sounds like I'm getting slightly better weather than where you guys are, but it's still pretty cold.
Yeah, well, nice. Well, thanks again for joining us. I'm excited to dive in. So,
pleasure.
One of your areas of expertise that you had mentioned is this idea of personalization. So I know I'm familiar with the idea of personalization. I think a lot of email marketers have been using that, but you talk a little bit more deeply about this idea of hyper-personalization. So can you describe that for me and maybe provide a few examples?
Yeah, perfectly. So hyper-personalization is a buzzword. Let's be honest, it's a word that gets thrown around an awful lot. I can tell you straight away what hyper-personalization isn't. It's not, putting hey, first name in those variable tags, or, I'm going to insert your company name in the email, for a B2B case. And neither is it for a B2C case, just, mass mailing a database once a month and making sure that you add the person's first name in there. That's not what personalization is. Hyper-personalization is really driven by use case. So, I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So there's B2B and there's B2C. The B2B is a challenge because you're having to hyper-personalize one-to-one. And of course, if you think about the 7 principles of persuasion by Cialdini, so things like, gosh, off the top of my head, like scarcity and so on and so forth, you already test those with somebody who I'm emailing one-to-one. Like, I know that, you've emailed me. If you email me again with a different way of talking to me or try and push me in some way, I've got a memory of our previous interaction. And so, I'm going to sort of shy away from that. So there's that challenge. And then from a B2C angle, there's a challenge of the one-to-many. But the advantage of that is you can test those principles of persuasion because you can use A/B testing. So you can look at sample and scale the approach that works. So starting with B2B, one of the things that you can do is gather data up front. So basically you need to predetermine things like personality, pressures on the client, how their company is doing. It's like before you go into a meeting, you do your homework on who you're talking to. Before you email a business in a business-to-business context, you try and learn who are they, what are they interested in, what's going on in their world, what are the pressures they're under, and all that sort of thing. And actually, one of the advantages of working in this ML age and AI age, to use the more popular buzzword, is we can gather personality profiles, business details, all that sort of thing, using tools that are already out there. And of course, what we can do then, and in fact, what we have done in the case of Outreach Hero, which is one of the technologies that we're deploying as Data Studio, is using these various data sets, identifying the good tone of voice at an email that's generated with the most interesting and engaging and relevant content for your target buyer. And then that email then goes through a filter. So effectively, you get a human, me, looking at it, and adding the edge that being a human gives to AI, which is adding things like calls to action, use cases, intelligence, and of course, just general humor and being a person in the world. And as a result, as in that particular case in B2B, we've been driving up 10% reply rates for the likes of rummage.com. And that's the sort of power that B2B hyper-personalization can bring. So B2C is another angle because, of course, the aspect of B2C is you can gather data afterwards. You can effectively do the sort of test and learn that we were talking about. And that sort of technology is available, obviously, generally. But of course, one of the things that is less available is the ability to spot preferences of individuals within data when the test has been carried out. So one of the things that we do at IOTA is we have this tool called Uplift. so iota-ML, and we were using that tool for Volvo, for accessories, so specifically their car accessories. And we effectively using that customer data to figure out what drives what to whom, and then scaling that to the full data set. And so then what you get is you then get the opportunity to sort of test those principles that Cialdini outlines of persuasion. And as a result, you're able to improve the overall response rates and engagement rates overall. So it just varies basically overall. Hyper-personalization, B2B versus B2C, it's two very different ballparks.
Yeah, awesome. Great explanation of the differences. So I was reviewing some of your information. You talked a little bit how you could change images and you can change obviously content and things like that to hyper-personalize to the person. So how do you determine what are the right elements to use for the right audience? Is it just a matter of performing those tests and seeing what resonates, or do you have specific formulas that you apply? Is it all just based on your learnings over time, or how do you typically approach that?
Well, I suppose it kind of depends again on which angle you're going at. So if you've got a B2B, it's much more difficult to know right off the bat, right, I'm going to position this image here and I'm going to talk to them in this way and I'm going to say this to them and this is going to be the outcome and the action. Because you effectively get one shot. So one of the best ways to do it, if you're talking about a one-to-one email or a B2B, it's about doing that research and doing the background research on what sort of personality that person is. So there are personality tools out there like Human Linker, like Crystal Knows, that give you some degree of understanding of what that person's personality profile is within what they call like the DISC analysis. So if they're like a captain or an initiator or something like that. And then of course a bit of background, maybe understanding of ChatGPT-4 can pretty give you an idea of like the tone of voice of a website, how those people are sort of engaged in talking about their business from the business's point of view. And you can adapt your email to that person using that technology. But again, it is a bit more of a hit and miss. I guess from a B2C point of view, there are the classic A/B testing approaches. But the problem with A/B testing is you can sometimes leave money of engagement, paying what you're pushing on the table by rolling out A just because A is performing better than B. So I'm talking about taking samples from a larger data set and pushing out to that sort of wide body of your data. So if you were to look at hyper-personalization in the context of B2C, you might look at tools like iota-ML. So you might look at ways that you can use machine learning to spot super responders to A, super responders to B, and then basically map those kind of profiles against the full data set to then ensure that you're kind of making sure that the best content or product has been put in place of the people who look like people who like B and people who look like people who like A. And that's kind of like predictive analytics, but coupled with A/B testing. And it's kind of a really powerful combination. As we've seen, with the work we're doing with Volvo, it has driven some brilliant success rates.
Wow, that's fantastic. So if you're giving advice to somebody who's thinking about diving into this a little bit more deeply in the way that you've been talking about, what would you say to them if they're just starting out?
I think if you're just starting out, ask yourself who your audience is. Who are you talking to? If you're a CRM manager in a business, obviously you need to think about, I'm talking to customers, especially if it's FMCG. If you're just somebody emailing B2B, like an agency, you need to think more about, right, I'm talking to a client and their business needs then come into play and their career needs then come into play. It's all about understanding what the motivation, the levers are to persuade that individual to act in a way or behave in a way or buy in a way which is in line with your objectives. I'm not saying doing it in a sort of a coercive manner, but you basically you want to do it in a human way and you want to take people on a journey and so talk to people as people, understand your audience, understand what pressures are and what's driving their behaviors, try and meet those needs. And yeah, if you get stuck, DataStudio.Tech, we can help. iota-ML, we can help. That's my pitch, my naked pitch.
Absolutely.
Happy to help, but yeah, also, there's loads of information out there on the internet and even ChatGPT, just like use that, have a look, have questions on there. And yeah, it's all out there on the internet.
Absolutely. Well, great insight. I'll be sure to post links to both yourself on LinkedIn as well as your the two companies you mentioned in the show notes. Thanks so much for joining me today, Matthew. It's been insightful, and I really appreciate your time.
It's a real pleasure, Janice, and very nice to meet you. And good luck and best of. Have a great afternoon. And I hope you don't get the tons of snow that you've got forecast.
Oh, yeah. Me too. Me too. All right. Thanks so much.
Cheers.
Bye now.
Take care. Bye-bye.